Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast, Facebook Live, instant reaction from a butt whooping.
Ritual disembowelment might not be too strong.
Right. So I am Tony Gerdeman, here with Tom Orr, following Ohio State's 48-7 polite victory over Nebraska because it could have been so much worse and so much ruder and a lot more than just a disemboweling. This was everything that it could have been for Ohio State's offense and defense. They look good in both phases. My only complaint is Drew Chrisman touchback on his punt today, but you can overlook that with just the way this team absolutely dominated. 48-0 when the starters were finally removed. 38-0 at the half. Justin Fields, we were wondering, I don't know that we wondered it, but others were wondering, how is he going to handle this atmosphere, this sold-out crowd? And he is unfazed by anything.
Well, he hasn't really faced what you'd call adversity at any point in the season. And I think we talked on the pregame show that, maybe this is the opportunity where some stuff breaks wrong and it's a 3-point game in the third quarter and the crowd's going crazy and maybe this is the week that, nope, this game was over in the first quarter.
Yeah, and I tweeted maybe in the third quarter, maybe there are no tests. Maybe this is just how it is. But every week is, next week, Michigan State, we'll see then when they finally get that, when the offense is finally tested. But man, I think it's safe to say, they are so much better than everybody they're going to face that this 48-7 could become the norm the rest of the season out. I'm not going to say it's 48-7 every week, but just the level of we can do whatever we want and we're not worried. We're never going to face any worry in this regular season because they're, as Justin Fields said, they're firing on all cylinders. They can run it, they can throw it, and they don't have to do too much of either because they're so balanced.
All 5 games this year have just been, they can name their score games. This was 48-7 because Ryan Day decided this is going to be 48-7. 48 is enough.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Scott Frost and him go back a ways.
And you get to play Nebraska again next year. You get to come back here 2 years. You don't need to put 63 points on them and have them be angry about that for 2 years.
But they could have.
They
sure could have.
They could have done whatever they wanted to.
It was watching this running game, and we've seen it before, but it's almost mesmerizing just watching J.K. rip off 14 yards. You'd made a mention that he was going to average 14 yards a carry with nothing longer than a 26-yarder because it was just so – it was too beautiful to be monotonous. But I'm sure it was monotonous to the Nebraska defense.
Yeah, he averaged 7.4 yards per carry and had a long of 26. Normally, when you're averaging 7.4, it's really you're averaging 5, but then you had a 60-yarder in there that kind of skews the average a little bit. Yeah. This was just 6 yards, 7 yards, 12 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards, 14 yards, 10 yards. It was just crazy. On the day, Ohio State ran it 53 times. Would you like to guess what their average gain per rush was?
Tell me, Tom.
6.9.
Nice.
If you're going to put together pretty much 7 yards every time you're on the ball, and you're not going to do it with a bunch of 90-yard runs.
Right.
They had a long run for J.K. Dobbins, 26. Long run for Master Teague, 26. Long run for Justin Fields, 41. Marcus Crowley had a 36-yarder in there. But 36 of those carries are running backs, the 2 starting and backup running backs. 36 carries, long of 26, and they're averaging 7 yards.
Yeah, and none of those were flukes. That's all good blocking and breaking tackles. Master Teague had an arm tackle that he broke, but just the way that you have so many different guys and that can do that, and those stretch plays for JK where he was getting 15, 16 yards and had those huge lanes between the receiver and the tackle where everybody's blocking so well. It's pretty to watch when it's going that well.
The amazing thing was you kept seeing these 12, 14-yard runs, and the thought in your head immediately was not, wow, that was a really good run for the blocking. It was, wow, he almost broke that for a lot more. Yeah. It was blocked for, they talk about this was blocked for 4 yards, but he turned it into a 6-yard gain. a lot of those were like blocked for 10 yards and they turned it into 12. Like,
Yes.
you can't normally block for 10 yards. That is not a normal thing. And to do that on a night when you don't have your starting right tackle, holy cow.
And we could talk about Josh Allaby, who we talked about Nicholas Petit-Frere. We told you guys that watch out because it could be Nick Petit-Frere in there if Brandon Bowen can't go.
That's on us for believing the depth chart.
That's on us, and we should have believed that. You know what? The third tackle on this team is Josh Allaby, and he came in, and they were running behind him, they were running around him, they were using him. They didn't change anything. They just continued to go as they go, and it tells you this is. We mentioned it many times. This is a very deep offensive line, and very talented, and it's game 5.
Yeah.
Just imagine them in game 10.
Yeah. Well, when you're going through, you were kind of going through earlier. You know, they're not going to be matched, basically, talent for talent. There's not that much they could throw this season off. There's injuries in a couple spots that could blow the season up. And they could just really, really, really mess the bed. And you've seen that in the past. It has happened. But it would take something like that for them to lose. Like, I don't think this team is capable of losing by 4 touchdowns no matter what they do. But
you're just going to keep tempting the football gods, Tom.
It's really remarkable because to lose a starting tackle on the road and just they'll just plug in the guy who started in the Rose Bowl and it'll be fine. Like that is not a luxury. The fifth year player who started the Rose Bowl, you just throw him in there. I mean, you look at what Nebraska was starting on the offensive line tonight, and it was like, we've got a guy who has heard of football before, and he's kind of big.
Yeah, I know a guy who helps us people move. He's a mover, a furniture mover.
Yeah.
So we can maybe try him. But it is a luxury when you lose a fifth-year senior. You replace him with a fifth-year senior who has also started
in a big moment. I mean, this is last year. Wyatt Davis first start Big Ten championship game. Last year, Josh Allaby first start Rose Bowl. I mean, that's a testament to Greg Studrara and his ability to develop those players where it's just like, okay, well, next man up.
And being he is the third tackle, maybe it's also because he has experienced this. That's why you throw him out there for that. And he was perfectly fine. There was no like, oh my gosh, you can tell they're missing Brandon Bowen.
Yeah, you forgot that he was out there.
Totally. And that's the best thing you can say about a backup offensive lineman when they come in is when you don't notice them, who cares? It's like, just keep going. Just continue to pick up 12 yards a pop and continue to average 6.9 yards per carry. And everything is perfect in the offensive line world and the offense as a whole. And another thing that impresses me about this offense is they could just sling the ball all over the place. It almost feels like right now they're still, we don't need to show you everything we can do with this passing game because we can do a whole lot. But you know what? We're comfortable just throwing a bunch of outs and we'll take some shots and we'll do this and that. But they haven't had to go pass heavy yet, and it's a credit to that offensive line. It's a credit, we should probably say, J.K. Dobbins running hard again. And it's not just because he's got huge lanes. He's running hard up the middle. He's pulling at people. He's trying to get out of there. And 177 yards rushing today?
Yep. 177 on 24 carries.
Over 100 in the first half, I believe. And as you said, only along with 26. But he had plenty of explosive plays, and he is having the year that I think he set out to have.
Well, he's having the year. This is when we in August were talking about the fact that this could be a special team, and that we were hearing a lot from Ryan Day about J.K. Dobbins. Like when you just asked him, which players on the team, of your 85 scholarship players, which players have really been standing out to you? And he kept saying J.K. Dobbins. And it was like,
oh, God, get a room.
If the way he was talking about J.K. Dobbins in August, this is what that must have looked like. Like running hard, hitting the hole. I mean, you go back to last year, the holes weren't always there. He just wasn't quite hitting them. He wasn't keeping his pads down. He wasn't hitting the hole hard. He didn't seem like he was content to just run for 6 yards. Yeah. He wanted to hit 50, and you kind of heard him say, "Okay, I have to do this better, and this is what I have to do differently." And you always kind of wonder, okay, is he saying it? Does he really understand? Is he, when he's on the field, and is he really going to do it that way? Yep. Yes, he is. That's what that looks like.
And that's what that looks like when, instead of wanting 50 more yards, you just want 2 more yards. And that's what you fight like that. When you just want 6 more feet, just want to fall a little bit forward and get out of this one tackle, as opposed to, if I can just get around these 11 guys, and well, no, I can't because I've been tackled. But yeah, credit to him. He continues to look really, really good. And Master Teague is the ultimate compliment, who is just on the cusp of becoming a superstar down the road for the Ohio State Buckeyes, probably next year, as he he's going to get stronger. He's fast enough. He'll add more wiggle, but he almost doesn't need it because, he just, yes, try to tackle me with your arm.
Yeah.
If you don't bring everything, don't just forget about it.
Run Howard narrator voice. Don't do that. Yeah, that was, LT Ironman Trent says, fun watching Master Teague. He's built like a wrecking ball, but he's also the fastest running back on the team, is what Tony Alford said earlier this fall. I mean, that is not a combination you normally see.
No, and I think it was probably in maybe the second quarter when he was getting the ball, and you could tell he was getting close to breaking one. I think I told you, like, by the end of the third quarter, they're going to have nothing for him. Like, the Nebraska defense won't be able to do anything because they were just going to get worn down. And I think that's a credit to Ryan Day, because they ran the ball and ran the ball and ran the ball. And we knew, like, come the third quarter, you'll just continue to, the 8-yarders will become 12 and 15 and 16 and pretty soon 30. And that's what happened, because Nebraska just doesn't have the depth. They don't have the talent up front to handle what Ohio State does. And, their running game, it's completely back, and it controls everything. It controls the clock. It controls the schedule on first down, second down, gives them short third downs. What were they today on third down conversions?
Third down conversions, they were 10 of 13, and that was, they missed a couple late, I think. I mean, it was 7 for 8 in the first half. Like, that is, you don't go 7 for 8 on third downs in a half. And
there was, like, I think a 3rd and 11 where they ran like a QB sweep when Justin Fields picked it up, and you're like, well, that's just how it goes. And you knew there was going to be some success. They obviously had the capability to run for 300, and that's always a possibility. But when you do it on the road here in this environment, and this is an awesome place to see a game, because even when the crowd is down 48-0, the ones who are still here, and not a lot left, but you can respect some people who are leaving, who are like, I mean, what do I need to be here for? But even late, they're still cheering on their team. They were getting into it after that touchdown, and then it's a cool place to be. It's a cool place. It's a nice, neat environment. They do some crazy things with some lights, and it's fun.
Could you imagine Ohio Stadium with Ohio State down 48 points? Like, you would have 3 people in there, and they'd all be dropping F-bombs.
Yeah, and they would not be cheering the team.
No. This is. We said this the last time we were here.
Yep.
We said this last week, but before we made this trip. I think we said that on the pregame show. Come here. Ohio State comes back in 2 years. It's going to be a more competitive game than this, but this is a great place to come see a game. It's a cool campus. It's a great fan base. It's a fantastic stadium. The facilities here are great.
Yep.
This is worth seeing a game here.
And who knows? Will they have their new facility upgrades by that time?
I don't know. There's some like $150 million facility upgrade, because Scott Frost basically said, "Well, here's what I want." And they said, "Okay."
Yes, sir.
You talked earlier about controlling the clock, and time of possession is a terrible, stupid stat that you should ignore. However, that being said, 36-54 for Ohio State. What's interesting about that is they only had 75 plays. That was not 90 plays, which tells you Ohio State was not pushing today. Ohio State was not, they didn't have to go tempo. They were content to run the clock pretty much the whole second half. But that is completely controlling the game. And when we say they could have named their score, if they had wanted to go to up-tempo, another 20 snaps, that's another probably 20. I mean, that's probably another 14 to 20 points.
And I think a reason they didn't do a whole bunch of tempo is because of the Ohio State defense. You don't want to. They're already going to be running around, being tired against a Nebraska offense that is going to go up tempo. you don't also maybe want to take your offense and go 3 and out with 27 seconds of clock time, and now your defense has to go back out there. So it's another example of just the entire team feeding off itself and existing for each other. And that defense, the starting defense, gave up 0 points. I believe when they left, it was 91 total yards with maybe 20 or so passing yards. This was as dominating and I don't want to say surprising. It was just very, very impressive the way they shut this Nebraska offense down, the way you shouldn't be able to.
No.
Poor Adrian Martinez had no time, was running for his life. Give him credit for only getting sacked a few times, only allowing Chase Young to get to him once. And he might be Big Ten Player of the Week, Adrian Martinez, just for avoiding that, just for only getting sacked once. That's the most impressive offensive performance we've seen out there.
I wrote about this. I put this on Twitter, and then I also wrote about this in an article I put up at halftime about the 5 most remarkable numbers in the first half, which we don't normally do that, which is an indication how many remarkable things happened in the first half that was like, I need to put this up because in the first half, he threw 2 passes that he completed to Nebraska players. He threw 3 passes that he completed to Ohio State players. That's not great. That's not great. Here are Nebraska's drives. 6 plays, 31 yards, interception. 3 plays, 2 yards, punt. 8 plays, 49 yards, interception. 2 plays, 0 yards, interception. 3 plays, -7 yards, punt. 3 plays, 8 yards, punt. 3 plays, 3 yards, punt. 6 plays, 15 yards, punt. At that point, it's the very end of the third quarter. The backups are in, and then they went 75 and 65 on the backups at the very end of the game. This was essentially the Florida Atlantic game, where Ohio State just kind of went up down the field on offense, completely shut them down on defense, and then the backups came in and it got pointsy for a little while, and the final score did not reflect the final score where they gave up 7 points did not reflect the dominance of the game.
No, and you'd think Nebraska put up over 700 yards of offense against Illinois last week. And if the starters stay in this game the entire time, maybe Nebraska hits 150.
And maybe not even.
Not even. I'm just trying to give these guys the benefit of the doubt.
They put up 100. They put up 140 yards on the last 2 drives against the backups. They only had
91 before that, I think.
231 yards. Yeah, so 91 yards. I mean, that's
incredible, actually. When you have a guy like Adrian Martinez who can keep stuff alive, and you've got Wan'Dale Robinson, you got Maurice Washington, you got J.D. Spielman. Granted, that's just 3 guys. But it's enough to move the ball here and there. But there was no here and there, and there was very little moving the ball. The most impressive aspect of that was when Nebraska is moving the ball with the I formation. They're able to get the ball to the quick handoff to the fullback, not unlike like Scotty Graham back in the day, with the quick hitter. Then there's also some option. And then Ryan Day calls timeout. And that's when things go into action. And so I was talking to Greg Madison and Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinators, afterwards. And Ryan Day actually asked Hafley and Madison, like, hey, do you guys need a timeout while while Nebraska is moving the ball on them? And Hafley's like, yes, because they haven't seen this. They would have had to go way back. They said that, this is something that Nebraska hasn't shown. And Tom, I don't know if you're aware, but in the past, there have been instances where the Ohio State coaches have been caught off guard by something that teams haven't shown or that they say they haven't shown. And it doesn't always go so well. And sometimes it might take a week to adjust to it. Sometimes it might take a halftime. In this instance, and was it last week when you wrote about how quickly they adjust? It was like before the half. They're even making adjustments. Here, it was one timeout, 2 minutes, that they made an adjustment. And Greg Stadrawa said that they haven't been working on it.
Greg Madison.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. That's why I got you. At least I didn't say Greg Schiano.
There you go.
So
no, that was the subtext there. That was just the subtext.
Greg Madison said they worked on defending the I formation in the spring. And he's like, you don't work on it because nobody runs it anymore. And they worked, and it'll be good practice for next week. I'm sure maybe Michigan State or they'll see some more of it. And I think maybe they worked on it some during camp, but they didn't work on it this week, I don't believe.
Right.
And then as soon as they called that timeout, they sat them down and said, "This is what we remember. This is what we'll do." Mm-hmm. And they did it and neutralized it. And Hafley was like, he said, "You guys should have heard me in the press box because I was not happy. I was like, what is this? What are they doing? How do we handle this?" And then so you get the timeout and you calm down. And I asked Greg Madison, Jeff Hafley, like, what does it say about your players? And they're like, they're smart. They understand what we're asking them to do, and then they do it. And it's a treat to be able to see that quickness of an adjustment, and it's impressive. And you guys should be appreciative that we just told you about it.
Yeah, I asked Jordan Fuller about it at the end after the game, and he said it's a testament to the coaches that they just are able to just kind of and now it's figured out. But he said it's just everyone knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's when everyone knows what they're doing, it's easy to fix something like that, which goes back to, I mean, this is like the Rosetta Stone answer for every Ohio State defensive question this year. Things are simpler, so everyone knows what they're doing, so therefore it's easier to fix things, so therefore it's easier for our coaches to fix things, so therefore everything gets fixed.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
If you only have round pegs and round holes, I think it's easier. It's a simpler puzzle, and the pieces are all there, and they're putting them together. And that was just neat to watch the way, you call a timeout, you get everybody together, and you say, we're going to do this now, and they go out and do this now, and they operate. And we thought we would see, this is the week that maybe we don't see as much Duff Borland, or maybe we see more Brendan White, but they don't seem any different. They just continue, like, we can defend everything with our guys and with just a base defense, or we'll throw a wrinkle or two here, but they don't have to get fancy or cute or anything. They just go out and tackle and play sound defense and defend the pass. But it all starts up front with Chase Young and those guys. Yeah,
I mean, we had this conversation earlier this week.
Yeah.
Nebraska has pretty good skill position players. So that's going to be pretty interesting. How much can they challenge Ohio State? Well, if you're getting buried along the line, all the wonderful shiny skill position guys are fantastic, and maybe they'll do something every once in a while, but you're not going to do anything consistently because your quarterback is running for his life. Your running backs don't have anywhere to run. I mean, Desmond Howard, I didn't hear this. Someone told me. Did you tell me? Desmond Howard, something this morning about on game day about Wan'Dale Robinson. Ohio State doesn't have anyone that can contain Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson, a short story. 9 carries, 27 yards because he lost 2. 9 carries, 27 yards, long of 6, average of 3. 1 catch, 8 yards. I mean...
The end.
Yeah, I don't know if...
Too short, didn't read.
I don't know if that's not contained. I don't know what... I mean, 3 yards a carry and a long of 6.
Yep. A long of 8 and all of his touches.
But and maybe if you get him in space... I mean, he's a talented player. He's a player Ohio State wanted. Maybe if you get him in space, he can be that kind of player. If you are getting murdered up front in the trenches, he doesn't have anywhere to run. He doesn't have room to shake, shimmy, get loose... use his speed. So, it's like trying to get away from someone in a phone booth. Like, nope, that didn't work.
And I'm planning on writing about this hopefully tonight. I think Jeff Hafley, maybe his exact quote was, we wanted to get our hands on these guys. And he said, we played mostly man. Go watch the film. We played mostly man, and we wanted that challenge. We wanted to lock them up. And I think it also helped that they knew the offensive line had no chance.
They didn't have to lock them up for very long.
Exactly. Why not just lock them up immediately? It takes 2 seconds for that quarterback to break out of the pocket, and as long as you don't lose contain on the guy getting behind you, and they didn't. And we go into this game talking about J.D. Spielman, because he is dangerous. He's done stuff against Ohio State. It wasn't to speak of this crowd. The first time Drew Chrisman comes out late in the game because they finally forced a punt, the crowd is going crazy. Like, yes, we finally forced a punt. And I hear over the PA, J.D. Spielman back to return. I'm thinking, that is the first time I've heard his name. And then you look at the box score, he has 1 catch for 7 yards, 3 targets, and was a complete non-factor, when that's just not been the case in the past, when they would target him and utilize him in as many different ways as possible. and there was no opportunities for him out there today. I don't know who all it was. Jeff Okudah was getting interceptions with Wan'Dale Robinson, being in coverage on him. Maybe it was Arnett and even Cameron Brown at some point when he came in. But J.D. Spielman was nowhere to be seen in this one.
Wisconsin's leading receiver.
Nebraska.
I mean, Wisconsin didn't do anything on offense tonight either here in Nebraska.
True.
But Nebraska
got the correct Tom.
Yes.
That's one.
It's a Christmas miracle. Nebraska's leading receiver.
Yes.
Most yards receiving on the team for Nebraska.
Okay.
In the whole game.
Right.
The most.
Right.
10 yards. First down. That's something.
True. That was, I believe,
unless it wasn't on second and 12 or something, which it could have been because there were a few of those.
Sure could have been. I think it was a screen to Dedrick Mills. He had a 10-yarder.
Yeah, he had a 10-yarder, and Maurice Washington had a 10-yarder.
And for the longest time, that Mills catch was the only completion for Adrian Martinez in the game. And they, 3 interceptions. Jeff Okudah had one on his back. I asked Jeff Hafley, have you ever seen a guy catch an interception on his back? He's like, yeah, a couple times. I'm like, really?
Wrong answer, Jeff Hafley.
Yeah. like, never mind. I thought it was special. Apparently, it's not. Anybody can do it. Jordan Fuller had a diving, sliding interception. And those were just bad throws.
Yeah. Well, that's a sophomore quarterback who's running for his life.
Exactly. You can't fault him, even though it's his fault, but you understand why he's at fault.
Here's another thing. This Ohio State defense, talking about all the tackles for loss and putting them in 2nd and 12 and making the quarterback run for his life. This is the 3rd week in a row they've had more than 10 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
Malik Harrison 1, Baron Browning 2, Chase Young 1, Pete Werner 1, Jayshon Cornell 2, Zach Harrison 2, Jocelyn Wint 1, Robert Landers 1. It's just, this is the same thing every week.
Yeah.
It's an incredible number, and it's not just, yes, Chase Young is eating people's souls. It's like everyone's just doing it. It's not just one guy's making superlative plays and everyone else is just kind of like, hey, that guy's good.
Yeah, no.
It's been for weeks just different guys, but everybody's doing it.
And Jeff Okudah went into last week's game with no career interceptions. He now has 3 in 2 games. What is the formula now? Is it 4 next week? 1, 2, or if we're doubling,
are we doing the Fibonacci sequence, or no? That would be 1, 1, 2. I think.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's pretty late actually, and I don't remember the Fibonacci sequence because it's been a while since I've sat in a math class. Doesn't matter. That's not what we're here to talk about.
Although there is plenty of good math in this. I did not. Maybe Zach Harrison had his tackles while I was coming downstairs. I don't know.
He had
Jayshon Cornell, another good game. He was quiet, but there's so many people in that scrum where you don't even realize who's all chalking these things up.
There was one sack that was like they're going to have to divide it up into like eighths of a sack.
It was team sack.
Yeah. Do we want to do listener questions? Because we have a million.
Let's get to it.
Turns out you guys are excited about the Buckeyes.
That was a pretty fun game to watch.
I don't know why. Brad, this team has very intelligent players who seem to truly care about each other and enjoy playing for each other. I love this team. It's easy to love a team when they're just murdering people every week.
It's so easy to love a bunch of murderers, yes.
Good-hearted murderers.
That's true, and they like each other.
They do, and it is a nice and this has been a kind of a thing with Urban Meyer teams for a while. They have made a point to recruit good character kids. This is something that he talks about the lessons he learned from Florida and the end of his term time. Either one doesn't matter. We're not here to talk about the past. The end of his time in Florida,
it's getting late,
and he really made a point to go for high character kids. And when you talk to Ohio State players, it's very easy to tell. Like, these are intelligent, very high character kids. Like,
I feel stupid talking to some of them.
Well, that's.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, no, that's a fair assessment. That is not just your imagination. That is something that is actually.
And when you have kids committing and signing because of the stuff with Real Life Wednesdays,
correct,
and the after football stuff, that gives you some insight into what they're thinking about. And yes, everybody wants to go to the NFL, but there's more to it than just that. And as Urban Meyer would say, like, don't let the school use you. Use this school, because there's so many different avenues and tools that you can better yourself with, both on the field, off the field, and they're using that as part of their decision making. And if you're doing that, then it's no secret then that you're also going to be able to do stuff like that on the field. So it's impressive.
Michael said, our good friend Michael says, did Tom describe the game for Tony since he had an obstructed view? I don't know if you saw Gerd's post on Twitter. He had a great post, literally a post right in front of him.
Although, to be fair, I took the photo with the camera right up against the post. It wasn't that bad, but I do like it when people feel bad for me because most people just like hate me. Yeah. And so I like a little sympathy every now and again.
Yeah, my biggest complaint was a guy sitting next to me, not you, on the other side of me, was pretty loud, boisterous throughout the whole game.
But he knew his football.
He did know his football, that's true.
That was impressive.
Eddie Perry says, love the play of the defensive line and secondary and linebackers swarming to the ball. Defense has really improved from last year to this year.
I agree. You should love the play of the defensive line and the linebackers and the secondary.
Yeah.
Because it's all, and it's not like, well, the defensive line is a lot better than last year and, they're carrying the linebackers and the secondary is better than last year, but they still have their issues. It's across the board. Everybody is better. And the defensive line was good last year. It's deep and it's talented and it starts the entire engine, but then everything behind it is running just as smoothly and it's all one unit.
Yeah. Mike says, how much does Ohio State beat Sparty by next week? I mean, I have the reputation as the pessimist here. I gotta say, I'm pretty sold on this team at this point. Sparty does have a way of being the sea monster that drags your ship down under the water and just, Michigan State turns every game into a rock fight. That's just how it is. And if this team was in a 17-13 game against Michigan State, I'm not expecting that.
Right.
But if it was a 17-13 game against Michigan State, early fourth quarter next week, would you be completely floored? I did not see this coming in any world.
No, because I think they have a good defense, and at some point you're not going to play your best.
Yeah.
It would not be a huge surprise. I don't expect it.
Yeah.
It might be 24-3, something like that, where it's still reasonably close, but yeah, that. At this point, there's no reason to doubt Ohio State, I don't think.
No. What did last year's game end up? 27-6 or something up there?
Yeah.
And that, that'd be fine. And at this point, that would feel like a disaster.
Yeah.
Ohio State only scored 27 points.
Still better than Clemson.
True, but they played a team that doesn't ever have to go to class. So that's
true.
Different.
Yeah.
Raquel says, there really any team in the Big Ten who Ohio State should worry about?
Ohio State?
Yeah, that's the answer. If Ohio State shows up and is focused and doesn't freak out and panic for some stupid reason, they are. Ohio State is probably 10 points better than everyone in the Big Ten.
I think
right
so.
now. I don't know who.
With the capability of doing this to every single team.
With the possibility of, because there are some decent teams in the Big Ten this year. Wisconsin's a decent team. Michigan, maybe. Michigan State has a good defense.
Penn State had a good week. So there's a bunch of teams. I don't know if they can do this to Wisconsin. I forgot about those guys.
They won't do this to Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's offense is the kind of offense that, and we'll have time to talk about this because they're believe it or not, they're going to play in a couple weeks.
That'll be Ohio State's.
Might play again a couple weeks.
That'll be Ohio State's first test for their defense.
Yeah, it'll be the first test for the defense. That's for sure. But next week will be a better test for the offense.
I think this was a test, but they completely passed it because of the Nebraska offensive line let them cheat over their shoulders.
Yeah. Trebeck says the Okuda interception he caught while on his back could be one of those lucky plays that champions seem to always get. I tweeted out immediately right after that happened. That's the moment that it's just not your night. If you're Nebraska and you're driving and it's like, oh man, and you hit the wide receiver, and it went off of Wan'Dale Robinson's hands and just right to Okuda.
I was asking Jeff Hafley about that, and he said, we told Jeff Okuda that the interceptions will come to him. And I think he said, I didn't necessarily mean it like that.
Yeah.
But they will find you if you continue to work at it.
Thomas agrees with you.
Thank you.
Just that they aren't showing at all. We talked about that earlier. Still very buttoned up offensively.
I think if a team maybe like Michigan State, where they're going to come in here and just gear up to stop the run, and then you throw for 380 yards on them.
Yeah.
And because they could, and Justin Fields can do that, and no fly zone or not. Mm-hmm. If they want to go ahead and stop the run, maybe you just throw until they have to defend that, and then you start running the ball, and you end up maybe you only run for 160 yards on them, mm-hmm. but you still put up 500 because of what you're doing through the air.
Well, and you pointed this out. If you're geared up to stop the run, you're going one-on-one outside.
Yep.
You pointed out Chris Olave. Go run through the Chris Olave thing for us real quick. This was one of the most amazing plays of the game, and it was an incomplete pass.
Yeah, no. The deep pass to Chris Olave was in double coverage, and at the point the ball is in the air, maybe like halfway, at its peak, Olave is even with the two defenders. And in about a 10 to 15 yard stretch, he just turned it on and got 3 or 4 yards clean of them. And that was at the end of the first half. And it was clear, it felt like they could do this whenever they wanted, mm-hmm. because they could not stay with Olave on that one. It was just really, really, it was like Devin Smith, but just the way he turned it on, it was like, you know what? All right, guys, I'll see you.
And now we go fast.
Exactly. And that's what he did. And he's done that a couple times where he's just overthrown it. And you're like, well, you can't fault Justin Fields. You have to try to overthrow Chris Olave and mm-hmm. Let him run underneath it. I know, like Devin Smith would tell guys, try it, try to overthrow him, you see what happens, mm-hmm. and you almost never did, if ever. Yeah. And maybe Chris Olave does not quite have that speed yet, but man, he was really close. It was just impressive to watch that play. Go back and watch it. I don't know what the TV shows, but he turned it on. He hit the nitrous and
yeah.
He was gone.
Well, yeah, he's also, this is only the 5th game of his sophomore year. He has, even if he goes pro after his 3rd year, yeah. he still has more than a year and a half left. And you've already seen, he's already working his way up the list, not necessarily of the career touchdowns list at Ohio State, but the holy cow kind of plays.
Yeah.
He's working his way up that list. I think that's more of an unofficial stat. I don't know if we have...
HCs.
We'll have to get with Jerry and Mike with the SID office to see if they can put a list together. But Don Burns, anyone still hating on Stud? No, I think Greg Stabara is probably a pretty popular popular guy right now. Raquel says, hey, Gerd, you should send your article you wrote about getting 5 SEC teams in the playoffs to Heather Dinich. Her updated top 4 all play in the SEC.
Are you kidding me?
This is not... I'm going to
Go ahead, Tom.
I'm going to say the word stupid here. I'm not applying it to a specific person. When people say and write stupid things for attention, you should just ignore them because they're trolling and they're idiots. I'm not applying that to anyone in particular. But there are stupid people who write and say stupid things, and if you give them attention, you are giving them what they want, and you are rewarding them for being stupid. Do not do that.
Do not reward the stupid.
There you go. Mike says he thinks the running game is back because Fields threatens the defense with his running ability. Haskins wouldn't run the ball, allowing defenses to key on the backs. I
agree. Dwayne Haskins was terrible. We talked about that coming into the season.
Yeah, the two things that have improved this team the most: getting rid of Dwayne Haskins and getting rid of Urban Meyer.
Once they got those two losers out of town,
boot them to the curb. Really, there's probably at least 3 different things that are going into the better running game. One is, in fairness, the presence of the quarterback run. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely true. The offensive line is better, which we talked about over the summer. This is coming. Yeah. Trust us on this. The inside of the line is going to be better. And the running backs are better. Yeah. Teague is running like you have... he really didn't get a chance to do this last year. And Dobbins is running in a way that he didn't run last year.
And when Master Teague and Steel Chambers get in there, or when Marcus Crowley and Steel Chambers get in there, they are also picking up big chunks.
Yeah.
And yes, it's against a tired defense, but it's still good to see these 2 true freshmen continue to play and do well. It doesn't seem like Crowley's probably not going to redshirt.
No, I think Crowley's
3 or 4 or 5 games now, right?
He's probably this might have been his 5th game. So, yeah, Crowley. I would guess at this point Chambers probably is, and Crowley probably isn't. But that's a little later. LT Ironman Trend says we should have turnover bling. False. Do not do that. Nope.
There was plans for that back in the spring. There was a silver turnover football that Al Washington. No, not Al Washington. So, yeah, I think maybe Al Washington showed to some people during the coaches clinic, but it appears that has been it was nixed sometime in the summer or maybe shortly after Ryan Day found out about it.
Here's the thing: if you're Miami and you're all style and no substance, then you have to do crap like that. Ohio State has here's the flashy thing we're going to do. We're going to score touchdowns. We're going to not let you get yardage or score touchdowns. Alabama, does Alabama have a turnover?
I don't think so.
What's it? This is the crap that Miami has to do, and this is the crap that Miami gets hung up on, that they're worried about that while they're not worried about blocking, tackling.
Not getting penalties. And that was, speaking of penalties, 25 yards, I think. Was that maybe 4 penalties, 3 penalties?
Yeah, Ohio State had, what's on here? That's for sure. 2 penalties, 25 yards, and one of them was the 15-yarder on, was it Malik Harrison? Right at the beginning of the game, first drive of the game. It was 2 plays into the game, they had a 15-yard penalty, and then the last 59 minutes they had 1 penalty for 10 yards. That was it. And it was the hold on Thayer Munford right before the half. If we can sit here at the end of the game without having thought about it at all,
and give you all of the penalties.
List off all of the penalties.
Couldn't do that last year.
No.
But Tom, I'll say this. Buckeye leaves are the original turnover chain. And now how do you feel?
Well, that's different. That's tradition, Gerds. That's different. Thomas Rossetti says Teague is such a throwback. Ahead of steam like Bob Ferguson. Woody would love Teague. He runs towards the goalpost. It's funny.
I bet he would.
I was talking to Jack Park on the sidelines right at the end of the game, and Jack Park said the exact same thing. Woody would have played him at fullback. He's slap a number 33 on him, put him at fullback. So Thomas Rossetti. Here's a little thing. If you and Jack Park are thinking the same thing about Ohio State football history, you're probably on the right track.
Yeah, Ohio State historian.
Yeah, probably the single definitive greatest Ohio State football historian ever. If you and
Jack Park.
Yeah, if you and Jack are on the same page, it's probably the correct page. Yeah, Don says most impressed by the lack of penalties this season. Yep, true fact. Shane asked, why did Ryan Day leave Justin Fields in so late? And he said at the end of his press conference today, someone asked him about that, and they said he hasn't played a 4-quarter game, and it was just kind of like,
gotta get him in shape.
You want to let him keep playing. You want to kind of get some more reps. It's just, but he said it is a little nerve-wracking that he's out there. The game's decided, but wanted to get him a little reps. And the other thing is, he said Nebraska can score, and he brought up the UCLA game from last week where Washington State was up by 1 billion, and then all of a sudden UCLA came back and won.
That's the Chip Kelly tree.
So he said, they score, and then Jamison Williams muffs that kickoff, and they got it back, and then of course Nebraska, because Nebraska played a very consistent game of football tonight, was offsides in the kickoff return where they almost had a game-changing fumble return or fumble recovery.
With more credit to the fans, they were also into it at that point, and so maybe you don't want to throw Chaganoff in there right then.
Yeah, well, and he said you get real worried when whatever it was at that point, 48-7. Yeah. But okay, then you botch the ensuing kickoff, and it's like, just don't let this. Yeah. This game is well in hand. Don't let this turn into 48-28 or something stupid like that. Just keep the game comfortably in hand. Treebuck says, incredible how Garrett Wilson got 3 steps inbound about 18 inches.
I thought he caught that. I said, he's clearly out of bounds, but that was the far opposite corner, so we couldn't see it well, but then once I heard it was Garrett Wilson, then of course, obviously, he got 6 feet in bounds and got all 3 hands on it and is just the perfect end zone weapon. I mean, he's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's had, 4 receptions this year, and 3 of them are for touchdowns? I mean, if he can keep that up.
Yeah.
If he can just scale those numbers up, he may have a future.
Finish the season with 40 catches and 30 touchdowns.
Our buddy JC says Northwestern script whiskey if it's armored cheese curds at Camp Randall. Wisconsin will have problems in Columbus. I mean, Northwestern's another one of those teams like Michigan State where they can just kind of make you look like crap.
What did we say this morning? They get their stink on you.
Yeah,
and you can't get it off, and they just drag you down to their level.
Yep.
They're like the bad kid on the block that you have to hang out with because you have no other kids your age in the neighborhood, and then you guys get busted by the cops for fireworks and stuff. Hashtag fireworks, Pat Fitzgerald.
John from Houston says the Alabama turnover cousin. I don't know if that's an official thing. I may or may not know John. That may be a person that I know, and that
sounds like somebody you would know.
It does sound like someone I would know. Brian says this is the most complete team he's ever seen at Ohio State. Offensive, defensive line, putting opponents on roller skates and dominating everyone. Shut down corners, elite running backs. Field has Braxton's legs and Haskins' arms. The best receiving core since Ginn, Gonzo, Hartline, and Robisky. Thoughts? Those are some thoughts.
Geez, that should be a podcast all in itself.
Those are some thoughts, and I'm not sure where. If I was to disagree with one of those things, I'm not sure where I would completely disagree. I mean, it's still September.
Yeah.
It's almost not September anymore.
Maybe we revisit that one this week. I don't have any of these things that are like, I'm like, no way.
Well, yeah, the things he listed off, no. I think if you go back to the 96 and 98 teams this time of year, you probably would have said the same things about those.
I'm also wondering, how far into the season, what's the furthest into the season an Ohio State quarterback has gone without playing a fourth quarter or much of a fourth quarter or an entire fourth quarter? Yeah. I mean, is that something we need to go and research?
Yeah, maybe.
Should have asked Jack Park while we had him, but whatever.
Well, I mean, Ohio State has a sports information department. It seems like that's something they can put together for us.
I don't like to bother those guys.
Don says, "You guys are awesome. Have a safe trip home." That's the plan. That's the plan. And
the plan is to be awesome. You're right.
Yeah, JC says Day won't do injury reports, but what is your prognosis on Brandon Bowen? I was down on the field before the game. He was out there dressed.
Yeah.
And was going through reps. He probably, if they had to have him play, I would guess could have played, probably. I am not a doctor. I don't know what the issue is specifically. But if he's dressed and he's out there going against opposing defensive linemen, I mean, they're not obviously rushing hard. Right. This is warm-ups. You know, this is not something you're doing on a broken leg or with a torn ACL or, you know, he was out there because it was at least plausible that he could have played today, I would think. That's how I read that. The fact that the way they ran through warm-ups was Josh Allaby was with kind of the ones at right tackle, and then Bowen was kind of like stepping in next to do it also with the ones, or, you know, right after the ones did it, he also did it. So he was out there, but just the fact that Allaby was out there and it was Allaby and not Nick Petit-Frere, I kind of went, okay, it's probably going to be Allaby. But
yeah, the game time decision seems to be like a 1 week thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, you're off of it the next week.
Right.
I think that pretty much that might be the universal thing so far. Has anybody been on it 2 weeks in a row?
I don't think so. I don't think anyone's been on it.
I don't know if Tyler Friday and Tyreek Smith
Smith, I think they both missed 1 week and then came back. So yeah, but I mean that makes sense. Like, if you're a game time decision, you're at least plausibly, you know, unless you re-aggravate
like
something.
If the game was on Tuesday instead of Saturday, you'd play.
Probably, yeah. So that
would Maction.
That would be.
They need Maction. Is that what you're saying?
That would be my. I bet this team would be okay with getting right back out there and playing again because no sense wasting all these midweek days. Just play the next 10 games and the next.
Plus, it's easier than Tuesday practice, which is Tuesday Bloody Tuesday around there.
Yeah. So, that'll be...
Is that all of them?
That's all of them, except for John, who says Roll Tide, which so say you, and so say we all.
So, I think that'll do it. I think we've covered it well. This was an impressive performance by Ohio State, and I think you feel like this won't be the last time we're wowed by these guys.
Yeah, if it's the last time we're wowed, something has gone tremendously wrong.
Or maybe we just get spoiled and like 48-7. I've seen that before.
Ohio State football fans spoiled? Come on.
So I think we will call it a day, call it a night. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure to check everything out as we write it, as we're driving and putting some stuff up tonight yet at theozone.net. We appreciate your time. And we will talk to you Tuesday.